So we're going to do a little bit of a review of everything we've learned all semester with web programming with Go. And we are working out of, if you're catching this video online, we are working out of GitHub. GitHub goes to 11 is my username on GitHub. Yeah, and that's an old Rob Reiner movie, Spinal Tap. Woo, woo, goes to 11. And we're working out of the GOLANG web dev repo, GOLANG web dev. So that's what you see right here. So I'm going to go into temp and then just scroll down to Spring 17. And inside Spring 17 on 52, new directory 052. Oh, these aren't 0 and from, just 52. Review. And for the review, all right, see you, man. Good job. Good job. You did great. And so we're just going to look at like some of the stuff we've learned all semester. And so package main. And then I'm going to start with func main. And then I always like to start with HTTP listen and serve, just get our server up. And y'all should know what listen and serve is now. And we looked at how briefly you could create your own server, but listen and serve is from the HTTP package. And you know, we saw how in the net package you could actually just use TCP and do all that and create your own server. Briefly, we saw that. And so you put here which port it's going to be on. And so port 8080 is for local. If this is for production, I do port 80. And then nil means use the default serve mux. And now I could use the http.handle func, and I could give it patterns, and I could specify which function it's going to call when something comes into that pattern. And so func index, and then our signature is going to be response writer, and then a pointer to a request from the HTTP package. And then we could write something back to the response. So we have the request coming in, and we have the response going out, the response writer. So we could just do io.writeString to the writer, some text, hello world, whatever. And that's good. You know, this will run. And it'll show up in the browser. And so just to prove it, because proof's in the pudding, and it's always nice to see something happen, we can go to here and then cd into go and then source and then GitHub and then goes to 11 and GOLANG web dev, and then I am in 000 temp and 46 and 52 and 01 and then go run main.go. And there's some text, hello world. And so we saw that. And then is this helpful to people, or you know, just kind of like doing a high level review? How many people this is helpful for? Let me see your hands. Anybody want these front lights off? Will that help you see things better? Raise your hand if you want the front lights off. Okay, so Garrett, you mind hitting that front left light switch there? Or would you guys prefer just like to watch an Al Pacino movie or something? You know, we've worked hard all semester. What's up? What'd you forget?
I need to change. The cafe's closed.
You need what?
Change.
Change for what?
I need a pen. I only have a 50.
I
give 30.
You owe him 30?
Yeah.
I don't have change for that. You got 20 there? You got a little tutoring deal going down. In the air tonight. Cue the music. So the next thing that we saw is we could use, instead of just double quotes, we could use backticks and do a raw string literal. Or, you know, I don't know if we saw it in this order, but with the raw string literal, we could then write in some HTML. And so I'm just going to create a temporary file and, you know, temporary index temp. And I just did that so I could grab this, so I didn't have to type it all. And now I have it, and I could put that in there. And do like an H1, hello world. And I could even come up here and do style. And then do a little bit of a CSS and display flex and justify content center. See, I got to do this over in because I'm used to autofill, autocomplete. Let's go here. Boom. Justify content, center, align items. I wasn't sure if it was center or centered. And then background image and linear gradient. And I could do like red, yellow, blue. And then I could do height, 100 VH. And I do a little bit of a reset right above that. And this is just kind of fun. HTML body and H1. I have an H1. And I could do the content and then padding and then border and then margin. I'm just zeroing all those out and box sizing border box. So if you take my HTML class, you'll learn what all this does for the HTML. But I thought it'd just be kind of nice to see this work. And I'll do my H1. I'll do font size 8 rem, color white. And so if I just look at this page, that's kind of cool. Right? And I could even, if I wanted to so I put that into body. I could make this main, and then have another one here, main. And this is called perfect above the fold content, meaning no matter what size of the browser window, the viewport, it's going to always fill that perfectly what you have in main, because that's the above the fold. And again, this is stuff that's covered in my HTML and CSS course. So there's that. Same thing, but now I have all that down there. So that's pretty neat. And no matter what size my window, you could see it always is perfect, right? Like everything in main is just taking up the viewport until I scroll. It's pretty neat. So that's perfect above the fold layout. And so we could take all that text, copy it, and just drop it in here. And that's a raw string literal. And so it's just going to interpret everything like that. And then we could serve this. Control C, CD, O2, go run main. And then just go look at localhost 8080 and pow! So that's pretty sweet. And then we also saw that if we wanted to, if we had just like IO write string, let's just copy this one again and put it as O3. And if we had IO write string and we had in here, pow, just that H1 stuff. Hello world, and we serve O3. Let's see what happens. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen on this because I don't do it often enough, apparently. So it served it up as H1. But when we look at that, you know, into developer tools, we saw how to go into developer tools. We've really learned a lot this semester, right? Going into developer tools. And we go into the network tab and hit refresh, and then it loads all this stuff. And there's that request, a document, and then a fave icon, ICO, was asked for and brought down. And so I hit localhost, and I could see here that this is content type text HTML, charset UTF-8. So I could copy that if I wanted to. And we also learned that thing with the response writer. We could set a header, and it's going to be, you know, a key, and then also the type. And so we could do text plain. And so now if I serve this, right, it didn't serve up as HTML. So we saw how in the response writer we could set a header. We could set these headers, you know, that the header has the key value pair. And so there's different headers you could set. And we learned about the RFCs and the IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force, which is responsible for IETF. is responsible for setting out requests for comments, and requests for comments, are the things RFC, HTTP header, right? So request for comments 7230, Hypertext Transfer Protocol 1.1, and if we looked at RFC 7230, we could see here that we have header fields. So we have the request line, the status line, and then header fields. And so the request comes in from the client, and it's going to have a request line, and then headers, and then the body. Okay? And there's an entire sort of syntax for that. The request line comes in as, it's the start line, and here is the request line. It's the method, and then a space, and then the request target, and then the HTTP version, and the carriage return line feed. And so the method might be get or post, and then there's that space, and there's the request target, which is this URL. It's a URI, right? URL, URI, same thing, tomato, tomato, pretty much. And then the HTTP 1.1 or whatever. And so your request has the request line, and then the headers, and the headers are going to be like header fields. They're going to have field name and field value, and then and then it has the body. If it's a form submission, there'll be something in the body. And so we learned that about the request, and then the server gets it and writes a response, and the response comes back, and the response has a status line, and then the headers, and then the body. And the status line is the HTTP version, and then the status code 200, all's okay. Right? 404 not found, and then the reason phrase, okay, not found, whatever the phrase is. And so that's just, how the internet works. Hypertext Transfer Protocol language works. And this is like a huge document, and it's like one document, and I've never read much of it at all, though it's good to know about, and it's always like something where I feel like I should read it. Yeah, so maybe someday. Always seem to have more important things to do. So that was set in a header, which is just kind of like interesting. And we saw how to, in this last one here, just write HTML. And so the next thing which would be interesting would be to like start bringing templates in. I'm just going to get rid of that one because all the HTML is right there. And so 04. And then we saw for templates, we could do var TPL is of type pointer from package template type template. So that's, I am declaring there's a variable TPL which is of type template from package template, type pointer to a template from package template. And it's asking me for, what is this? There's multiple imports I could choose there. I could do temp. Let me see, where did I get my imports? Multiple choices. I want to do option enter. I could do HTML template or text template. Okay, so I'm going to go with HTML template. And so there's HTML template. And now I need to sort of initialize all my templates. I do an init function. And that init function runs once when the program begins and initializes stuff. And I can say TPL is equal to template from package template must template parse glob, and then a pattern, and the pattern is going to be in folder templates. Anything that ends with go HTML is going to be something we use. So I create a new folder, and that folder is going to be my templates, and in there I could create different templates, and so I could do a file and I could call it index.gohtml, and then pow, and it creates my template. And I did the exclamation point tab there, and that's emit. So we learned about emit. Also, you saw me use emit earlier for the unordered list, the LIs. And so there is my template, and I could do H1 here, hello world. And if I wanted to, I could just go grab that thing I already deleted, which was in here, and let's grab all this. There we go. And so now instead of this one, I could do tpl.execute template to my response writer. And the template I want to execute is index.go HTML. I'm not going to pass in any data. I don't need IO package imported anymore. And so that's 04, and now I'm going to run that. And cool. That's all firing up for my template. And the cool thing about this is I could use it to take data in. And so we'll just do this one for 05. And to take data in, I could pass in data. So in : James Bond. Pass in, and then in my template, I could say I want that data right here, and the dot is the current piece of data. So now when I run 05, pass in the data. And then the next thing I could do is I could pass in data structures, aggregate data types, composite data types. And so if I wanted to, I could create, like variable. And I think before variables, it kind of makes sense to do types, because then you might create a type and then you create a variable of that type. So just logically trying to think of my top-down order, I'll do my types first. So type person is underlying type struct, and I could say there's going to be a first name, which is a string, a last name, which is a string, and I don't know. I think that's good. Maybe a saying, which is a string. So now I can create some people. So yeah, I guess we'll keep that a little bit simpler. And create a people. So P1 : is a type person, composite literal. Composite literal is the type, and then the curly braces, and then the values. And the appropriate way to do this is to do it in this syntax where you're naming each field. And you need it to be capitalized if you want it to be exported. Though it always a little odd to me, these will be exported to templates when those are capitalized, even though that's lowercase, but that's all right. And shaken, not stirred, which is kind of like James Bond's philosophy for life, right? Gets into all kinds of tense situation, gets a little shaken, but he's not stirred. Because he's a real person, He's based on like a real person, like that's like he lived, man. And then we could have first Miss and last Money Penny. And what does Miss Money Penny say? Anybody? Nobody? Hello, James. It is so good to see you. Is that too racy for school? Right? And then I could have a slice of people. And a slice of people is going to be a slice of person. So a slice of person, XP, slice of person. Composite literal, right? So there's the type. And then here's the curly braces where we put our values. And now we're going to put our values. So that all works. And I can pass in my XP. And I can come back to my template. And I'm going to just bring this down a little bit. And now we could do range over dot. And we could end that. So it's going to range over the current piece of data that comes in. And when it ranges over it, right, I can now access that current piece of data. So each time it ranges over it, it's going to be a person. It'll be person 1 and then person 2. And they have these fields, first, last, and saying. I think saying should be next line. And we'll do this like H2. And we'll just let this be whatever it is. So does that all look reasonable? Did I screw anything up? Because maybe I did. James Bond, shaken not stirred. Miss Moneypenny, hello James, it's so good to see you. So I am going to change my flex box here. Right here, display flex, and flex direction will be column, and flex wrap, no wrap. And again, check out my HTML CSS course if you want to understand that. Who just left? And I'm going to, who was that left? Was that our class?
Yeah.
Did they not like what was happening?
He's gonna come back.
What?
He's gonna come back.
Oh. So this is pretty powerful stuff that we've covered in 27 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Just the beginning of class. Show. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I don't know where it is. But in about 20 minutes to be able to get stuff jamming and, you know, serve up things like that. The next thing I think we need to look at would be actually breaking our CSS out into CSS files and serving files. So, you know, and then also we want to deploy this somewhere and have it be live somewhere. So I'm going to hit that in the next couple of videos. So just so we're not too marathon here with the videos. But anybody have any questions or comments on what we covered right there? How many people feel like really good about what you've learned this semester? Why aren't you raising your hand? Yeah, Dom, what's up, dude? You don't feel good?
Like halfway, yeah.
Huh?
Like half, yeah.
Yeah, like this stuff, you got this, right?
Yeah.
You got this. I mean, look at what you learned this semester. You learned an entire programming language. There's an introduction to it, but you got it. You got like the 80-20. Or maybe more like the 60-40. You got 60-70% of this language. How many people feel like they could do what I just did here? Like, yeah, let me code that up. Let me see your hands. Kind of, yeah, mostly, right? Right? And like when I did it all, you understood it. It wasn't like I was up here saying Salam Alat Jalan. You're like, what language is he talking? Like at the beginning of the semester, remember? Y'all were like, what? Oh my goodness, dear Lord. Data structures. Right? Like what? Slice, map. You remember us hitting slices and maps and structs? And you're like, okay, where do I use which one when? Like how many people know, like, oh, slices, if we just want a bunch of things of the same type, stick them in a slice. Right? Cool. Like you learned some good stuff this semester. And you know what? I'm going to take a second here. If you want to reinforce this knowledge in the fall, we're teaching this class, pretty much the same class, but in a different number, CIT 90 in the fall. So you could take this pretty much same thing again, just hang out and get through it all once more and just have it really sink home. All right, so I want you to code this one up right here. So let's just take 20 minutes so that you're doing some coding and you know, reinforce these fundamentals, these basics. And I'll put the code up on the board so you can see it, and then we'll move forward with looking at reviewing serving files. Look again at serving files, review that, and then we'll also look at deploying to App Engine, which is new for all y'all.